Professor Luciano, I have a question. In your view, what is the rule of ethics? Is to identify principles from the action of the world? Is ethics a natural phenomenon or merely social convention? Or does it necessarily relate to genetic factors?
So ethics, of course, we can agree on terms, and sometimes it's just a matter of vocabulary. And there's a lot of freedom out there to understand ethics in whichever way one wants. On a personal basis, I'm a bit of a sort of classic line here. Ethics is something that tells you how things should go, how they are not going at the moment, sometimes unfortunately, but how they could go. So it's not a description of a life, a society, an environment, a process. That would be, for example, something produced by sociology or anthropology or economics, a social science. It is really a matter of understanding what's the project, what kind of world we want to live in, and how do we get from here to there. So what I ought to do in order to be a decent person. Is this something allowed or not? Are there sort of general rules that improve our social life together, and so on? So the emphasis is on the normative side, not the descriptive side. Now, of course, you need to understand. So I'm not the kind of philosopher who thinks that ethics can disregard social understanding, economic pressure, political power, etc. Of course not. But once you have all that understanding, there's still a project to develop. It's a little like saying, an example I used in the past, do we want to have a party on Saturday? Of course, you need to have the numbers. You need to have a sense of how much money you have, whom to invite, all the facts and all the logic. But at some point, it's a project. Is it a good project? Saturday, maybe Sunday? Can people come on Saturday? So you start kind of negotiating and deliberating about what's good, what's the right thing to do, what the sort of acceptable or preferable world we want to live in. And that is where ethics kicks in. So if you like, of all the disciplines, although we treat ethics almost like a nice to have, it's the center of all the philosophical understanding. Everything we do is in order to do ethics better. So it's a bit like a traveling plan, a journey. Well, where you want to get is what determines all the steps you take. Of course, where you start from and all the steps are crucial, otherwise you don't get there. But the whole project, well, that's what matters. So to me, ethics is really what helps us to shape the human project.
Professor Luciano, you propose the idea of informational ethics to address questions arising from the development of new technologies. How does it differ from traditional ethical approaches, and could you provide some practical example of this application?
Sure. I think it's a matter of continuity. So it's not like, oh, it's nothing that we ever done before or it's completely. Ethics develops also because we have new problems, new components of this human project, new challenges. Technology, for example, generates a lot of new challenges. The way our society is organized changes also what is more pressing or less pressing and so on. So as history, knowledge, science, technology change through the centuries and the millennia, ethics gets more involved and richer in terms of what needs to be discussed, analyzed, designed, etc. So continuity. Continuity, however, means writing the new chapter in the big book of Western ethics. And the new chapter to me today is the one that obviously has got to do with the digital revolution, the information society, all these new technologies. which have really represented a new chapter in human history. So, new chapter in human history, new chapter in the big book of ethics. So, continuity, but novelty. Examples of that sort of novelty, but also examples of continuity. Let me give you one example of